This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Now, this recently just happened to me. I had to rent a car. It was a newer car. And it had that weird nagging, like, stop-start feature. I'm talking like when you're at a red light, all of a sudden it shuts off and then fires up to move again. I mean, it was driving me nuts. It put me in a panic in a sort of way. Have you driven these cars?
No, I haven't, but I've certainly had vehicles that have stopped at intersections, and it puts you in that panic of, is it going to restart? So I don't know how people put up with that with the newer cars. I tend to drive older cars myself. I'm not big on cars like some of my friends. But, yeah, that would make me crazy. That would make me absolutely crazy.
On top of that, I mean, it shuts off and then fires up again when you're ready to move. And then even if your car lets you turn it off, it's not the end there. You'll have to actually disable the default feature every time you get behind the wheel. So if you want to turn that off, it's just more of a pain. That's my point here. But whether we like it or not, default settings can quietly run our lives and even our retirement money in a target date fund. Here's where I'm going with this. So for someone getting closer to retirement, Mark, how risky is it to still be on autopilot?
Oh, there's layers to this, my heavens. I mean, I love automating certain habits, like savings. That's so critically important. The people I find who have done the best are those who early in their career started setting aside 10% of their savings or their earnings as savings, 15%, then 20%. But they just automated this, and before they knew it, they were millionaires with their 401k plans. And I often have this conversation with people, did you ever think you'd be a millionaire? And the answer for them has been shocking. No, they don't think of themselves like that. So, yeah, it's good to automate some things, but others, like you talk about target date funds, that's very interesting because many people are involved in these target date funds in their 401k plans. And for those who aren't familiar with that phrase, what a target date fund is there are funds very commonly in 401k plans that have an end year, like a target year, like 2035 is the year you expect to retire. Therefore, you choose the 2035 fund. And what happens is over time, it starts out being more aggressive, then progressively becomes more conservative, with the idea being that when you hit retirement, you should be in a conservative position. I have a number of issues with these funds. I mean, they're nice in that they give you a greater breadth of exposure to the market, but they have historically underperformed the academics' expectations. That's one of the problems. The other problem I have with it is when you hit age 65 or whatever your target retirement date is, odds are you're still going to live another 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years. And therefore, should you be so entirely conservative as what that fund is suggesting? I find no, because you've still got to outpace inflation for the next 20, 30 years. And so I'm not a big fan of these default funds. They're not bad when people in their 20s or 30s maybe, and they're just trying to do it on their own, and they don't really even know what questions to ask. They're not working with a financial advisor. So, yes, automate your savings. Should you automate your investments? Probably not. You probably ought to be a little more customized to your actual personal goals and needs. So if all of that's strange again, come visit with us. We can show you a better way. And typically what happens is we get to a point, often at age 59 and a half, for example, we can do what's called an in-service rollover. You can roll your money out of a 401k. A lot of people don't realize this. In the IRA world, you got a whole universe of investment opportunities that don't exist in, among those 10 or 15 mutual funds that your employer offers. And there's a lot of constraints within the 401k plans where, for example, if you need to do Roth conversions to get your money from tax-deferred to tax-free, over time, for most people, that's a better move. We can do all the analysis for people on this. Doesn't make sense to convert, but often you have to be out of your employer's plan to do this. Not that it's not legal to do it in the plan, it's just most plans are not up to date with what the law actually allows. And these ideas are foreign to people. Come visit with us. We can help you with that, with the tax planning, with the investment planning. Don't go into default mode because you'll probably end up coming up short.
Exactly. Yeah. Get off that default autopilot mode. Give a call today and put the work in yourself. 702-996-4050. 702-996-4050. That website, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. So we trust financial advisors with some of the biggest decisions of our lives. But according to an article I recently saw at marketwatch.com, a lot of people don't realize there's a problem until it's already cost them. The warning signs can be subtle at first, and by the time they become obvious, the damage, it's already done. So at what point should people take a step back, Mark, and say, is this relationship actually working in my best interest?
I would say anyone who's serious about retiring, sometime between age 50 and 60, certainly by age 55, we ought to be rethinking maybe the relationships we've had and see if those relationships are still appropriate for the actual retirement phase. Because again, what brings us to retirement, that accumulation, is a different skill set than what gets us in the decumulation phase of income planning and retirement. How we come down the mountain is just much different than how we ascend it. So I would say people need to rethink things. I mean, I've had people come to me, for example, who maybe they were working with a friend or a family member and they were getting discounted rates and they just felt like things were wonderful because they were paying less than what a regular financial advisor might charge them. But then when we did some quick analysis, we realized they had lost opportunities. I can think of a few very specific scenarios where they could have saved $500 to $1 million in taxes, literally tax savings, had they started doing tax planning earlier, but because their advisor was solely focused on getting them a greater rate of return, just getting 1 or 2% more than the other guy kind of thing, they were solely focused on greatest rates of return and not how to preserve the money, how to prepare for health care issues, how to do any kind of tax planning, because they weren't dealing with those things. They ended up shooting themselves in the foot. And so, yeah, you really need to have some candid conversations. And I would say, look, get a second opinion. I have no problem with my clients getting a second opinion. What happens is they realize they're getting great service with us that doesn't exist often elsewhere, and you get great fees. But if you don't know what you don't know, ask around, attend classes, come to our community events. We do these classes at the college every 6 to 8 weeks, and they're free to the public. People come there, and the number one response there's two responses. The number one response is, I wish I had heard this 20 years ago. And the other response was, why didn't I hear this 20 years ago? Meaning they've had a financial advisor. I could think of a man who I absolutely idolized when I was a teenager. He's a local prominent attorney here in Las Vegas. He came to me about 10 years ago, and I was as nervous as a 14-year-old boy when he and his wife came in because, I remembered him when I was a 14-year-old boy meeting him. He was a young men's leader at church, and I just so admired him. But we went through our little presentation and identifying the strengths and weaknesses of what they had, and he asked me quite bluntly, why haven't I heard these things before? And initially I thought he was kind of questioning my honesty, like, this is too good to be true kind of thing. And then I realized he was sincerely asking me, why haven't I heard these things before? And when I got the presence of mind, I had to flip it on him and say, hey, why aren't you asking that of the other guy that you've been working with? Because what I'm teaching you is not new. I've been doing it. At that point, I've been doing it for 25 years. It's been almost 35 years now. But it's not that I was teaching new ideas. I was just teaching ideas that Wall Street does not promote. And so we can make dramatic improvements in people's lives if they will come work with the specialists, the people who really focus on retirement planning and not this vague wealth management business, which really is all about getting you the sexist rates of return. Shouldn't be about return. It should be about preserving what you have. Returns are important, of course, but preserving what you have from Uncle Sam and from the medical profession, et cetera, that should be the bigger focus for people going into retirement. Come visit with us. Don't just do things because they're comfortable. Don't just stay where you're at because you're comfortable. Come learn what you don't know. Come visit with us, Every time I meet with people, in 45-minute review, it's extremely rare people don't say, why didn't I hear these things 20 years ago again? Come visit with us. We can do a financial readiness review for you. We can see what are the strengths and weaknesses in your portfolio, and I can almost guarantee you out of the gate there are going to be things that have been missed, and we can help you. Sometimes these are catastrophic mistakes that need to be addressed. The sooner we meet, the safer you'll be.
And I love that financial readiness that you're talking about here. If you'd like to come in for that, give a call today. That phone number, 702-996-4050. Come in, learn what you don't know. And listen, you may end up saying, why didn't I know this? Well, I wish we had an answer. I don't know why you didn't know it. They weren't as educated as Mark maybe, but now you do know. So let's get you on the right track. 702-996-4050. The website, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. We usually know Steve Harvey as a big comedian, but I thought this was interesting, his take on here, because he admits he got a lot wrong in his first 2 marriages, but his latest is approaching their 20th anniversary. And people often ask him, what did you do differently the third time around? I mean, third time's a charm. Here is what he had to say.
I finally learned that no matter who you marry over the course of time, you're going to change. Everybody changes. And you've got to have meetings about those changes often. And those meetings have to happen probably every 6 months to a year, because the person that you married 5 years later is not the person that you married. Well, you changed too. Everybody got to sit down and discuss the changes. That's the best way to do it.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, listen, things change over time. In your marriage alone, much less, having talks about your money. And I've heard some say that having a financial advisor, it's kind of like having a money marriage, if you will. Because, again, it's going to be a long-term relationship. It's obviously really personal. Some would even say intimate, right? Because you're talking about your money, the thing you hold closest to your chest. So how often should people really meet with somebody like you, Mark?
Well, I really think it depends upon their situation. I mean, we meet quite frequently with our clients. I always tell them, I'm available as much as you need. And during the first couple of years, that's usually much more frequent than in the later years of the relationship. But what I'm telling to them initially and what they're hearing are often two different things. That may take 6 to 18 months before we're totally in sync and they're understanding. But the wonderful thing is, once that light bulb comes on for them, we can both tell when it's happening, suddenly they're liberated where they can go off and live their lives and not worry about finances, because what I'm doing is based on science, but there's also an art to it. And what I find is what people believe and what they're doing are two different things, and so there's this ongoing process. I mean, we're meeting with our clients at least annually, typically twice a year. We're doing a post-tax meeting, and then we're doing a meeting in the fall, and then we've got all these events throughout the years, classes and workshops, and so clients are hearing from me quite regularly, but we make ourselves available as much as the client needs, because at the end of the day, this is sacred. This money represents a person's lifetime efforts, and we can't approach that casually. I really do believe that this is a sacred conversation, and in a sense, it's kind of like your doctor. You got to get naked in front of the doctor sometimes, and that's very uncomfortable. And so, I'm not going to go, to my best friend's wife if she's a physician, because I'm just not comfortable with that kind of thing. You got to be very selective about who you're working with, because you have to know going into it, I'm going to have to open up, because they can only help me to the degree I'm being truthful with them. And it's stunning to me to this day. I mean, I've been doing this for 34 years, that sometimes people, it's like the more we talk, the longer the relationship, sometimes the more stuff starts bubbling up that maybe they held elsewhere, they didn't tell us about. If they had told us earlier, we would have made totally different choices, or they would be in a much better situation. We've got to communicate. You got to work with someone you trust, and that's why we take so much time getting to know our clients in the early days. I'm in no rush to do business, as they say, in terms of writing checks to us. I want to make absolutely sure this is a good fit, and I'm not a good fit for everyone. Conversely, not everyone's a good fit for me. And so we've got to communicate and make sure we're on the same page. I have biases, I have blind spots, and just like my clients do. But they're not going to find anyone more committed to their best interest. And the only way to find that out is to meet and to open up and to talk. Share your concerns. We welcome that. Come visit with us. We'll help you in the same way, like we help all of our clients.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.